Why were you placed on the UAPTF? And the UAPTF, for the people that don't know, is Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Task Force.
The UAP Task Force director funneled a request through the Ops Center, like, hey, is there any intel officer for your agency would be willing to be a representative on the task force to kind of fill that void with expertise from NRO and the Air Force. And my boss got the email, he forwarded it to me, and he's like, do you want to do this? And I thought, well, I'm a reservist.
Yeah.
I can put it on my performance report that I worked on like a task force.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be kind of an interesting thing to see what was going on.
When did you start to realize that you weren't just kind of looking at, anomalous phenomena and trying to classify it in the air, but you were being sort of systematically lied to about an internal reverse engineering program within the government?
Yeah, I mean, certainly going into it, I thought it was going to be, air trash, some prosaic natural phenomenon. I remember starting interviewing some military members that saw some really profound stuff, like, large, triangular craft, football field size that they, hovered over them. And I was like, whoa, and these people were very serious, very upset to actually divulge that, a personal thing. It's nothing classified. It was a personal observation they had on a drive to work. Yeah. And then, one thing led to another. I had, certain colleagues of mine that I known for years approach me, close the door in my office and was like, look, you need to know about some other stuff you guys are not, getting access to, and, kind of led down this.
Why do you think they talked? Why do you think they spoke to you?
Yeah, I think a lot of these guys were, they've kept the secret for so many years. They knew me. They knew what I was looking into. We reported to the Deputy Secretary of Defense and Congress at the time with the UAP Task Force. And I think they wanted some change. At least that's what they espoused to me is...
Why do you think they wanted change?
They felt that they were kind of limited in bringing people in, the support they were getting, their treatment was harsh sometimes, and I guess they weren't really feeling the love anymore.
What's the first moment where you saw irrefutable evidence that what you're dealing with is truth, is reality?
I mean, there were certain military cases, we were analyzing that I just really couldn't explain in a prosaic fashion.
What can you tell me about these craft? Why do you know it's exotic?
Based on the very specific properties that I was briefed on, isotopic ratios that would have to be engineered for it to be at those levels. And then of course, read some, intel reports that were provided to me in that regard. And, I took that and I went to the agencies that wrote those reports and asked for access. And when they deny you access, then it's a thing. Yeah. So and that's what happened to me time after time over a couple of years.
So there wasn't a singular moment where you're like, just open the folder and you go, what the fuck is that?
It was kind of like a slow burn culmination as I was processing it, allowing my worldview to open. And yeah, I don't know if there was a singular moment. I think it was, some of the really, really trusted high-level people we talked to when they, stared us straight in the face very seriously and, confirmed a lot of this information. And the quality of people we talked to, if they ever go public, it'll blow your mind who we talked to. Oh. I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm talking to X, who's a really important person, and they're confirming these certain details, and they're saying like, we need to protect this at all costs, and they're giving me kind of the whole speech about it. And I'm sitting there, it's like an out-of-body experience. I'm like, okay, well, this is a thing. I don't report to anybody, and there is no plan. Yeah. I'm not a part of some like slow drip disclosure or anything. If there is a plan, I'm totally unwitting, and holy shit, they've like controlled me in a very passive manner that is like masterclass.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not a part of some weird shit,
Did you ever at any point try to suss out whether you were being lied to? Because all of these people are coming from the same programs, and so presumably there's some level of coordination between them. So how do you kind of get through and just make sure that they're not, meeting in some back room saying, you say this to Dave, I'll say this to Dave,
Yeah, no, for sure. So like, I thought maybe it was like a joke or something. Maybe it was like a psyop on me or something. I don't even know. And then, but the, near 40 people we talked to, a lot of the guys, my entire career, and like, they wouldn't lie to me. I have like a friendship with them. And for them to, disclose to me that kind of stuff, and it ended up being a false, would have totally torpedoed the friendship. And I also went out of my way to find people who don't know each other either. And I had other very higher ranking colleagues of mine go talk to other people that I didn't even personally talk to. That group, of course, we took all that, and I'm like, all the people who conducted those interviews, I made them get interviewed by the Inspector General, because we're crossing our T's here, because this shit is crazy. Yeah. And I was I mean, you can never be perfect, but man, I was so freaking careful to make sure I wasn't getting fed some bullshit. If they were in coordination together on a disinfo campaign, holy fuck, I shouldn't even be an intel officer because I should have, sniffed that shit out, so.
In the last couple of years, have you had incidences that have caused you to be in fear for your life for addressing these issues?
Yes, personally.
There's a Chris Mellon story where he's supposed to meet with somebody on the program and he has the meeting all set up. And 2 weeks before the meeting, he says that the guy just randomly has a heart attack.
We were about 2 weeks away from meeting when he died, when he had a heart attack.
What was the last special access program that leaked? They don't generally leak.
People are like, oh, dude, wouldn't it be broadly leaked or whatever? I'm like, as somebody who is super cleared to a lot of that conventional stuff over the years, stuff never leaks.
Yeah.
It doesn't come out. There are plenty of things that are pretty serious, they're broad, that have never seen the light of day.
Of course, like you're gonna tell someone that their entire life and their family and their kids, like everything is in danger. It doesn't feel too far-fetched that someone will keep a secret if it threatens their life.
Look, dude, you're not getting promoted.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose your job. The psychology of the typical career government worker, right? Stable paycheck, pension, maintain clearance. So if any of that's threatened, they're gonna capitulate in most cases, right? The threatening nature of some of their indoctrinations where they're like, this is treason, you're going to Leavenworth if you ever tell anybody not in the program. And oh, by the way, what's the penalty for treason? Oh, right, execution, right? And I was like, well, fuck it, I'll be the mouthpiece for you. I'll be the leader, I guess, and I will shepherd you privately to the appropriate people that can be a recipient of your disclosure. You don't have to go public, but I'll do the thing. I mean, it's not just me that has come forward really, because Schumer, Rubio, all those guys are like, look, a bunch of freaking high-level officers came to us, and either they're crazy or the shit's real.
Most of these people at some point, or maybe even currently, have held very high clearances and high positions within our government.
And then Schumer was compelled to write that big 64-page amendment that talks non-human tech, recoveries, and you're the majority leader who's tight with the president, putting out a law that will be signed here hopefully this fall that really puts the fucking executive in a bind.
Yeah.
So I don't think that was done in a vacuum.
I think the one thing that can get the left and the right together is bloat in the military-industrial complex or malfeasance therein,
Yeah, nobody likes that. I don't think members of Congress don't like getting the door shut on them either. So they want that information because they represent the constituency.
They want answers. And that was the Matt Gaetz story.
Several months ago, my office received a protected disclosure from Eglin Air Force Base indicating that there was a UAP incident that required my attention. We were not afforded access to all of the flight crew.
He was basically denied access to a crew that had seen kind of a diamond-shaped formation of orbs. He should be fully clued into if it is terrestrial in origin because he's overseeing DARPA.
He's on the Armed Services Committee.
If you could just name anything, titles, programs, departments, regions.
I'd be happy to give you that in a closed environment. I can tell you specifically.
Thank you.
Maybe if we could get in a confidential area skiff, we could talk about that. But unfortunately, we were denied access to the skiff.
A lot of the narrative for the whole thing was that you were denied a skiff.
What does skiff stand for, just for people?
It was a specialized compartmented information facility, right?
Which basically means that you guys would just get into a secure place where you can share.
That's a facility that's accredited to talk at the top secret sensitive compartmented information level. And the members are pretty incensed that I believe it was like they couldn't reserve a skiff and then they couldn't give me a one-time read-on back into the right accesses since I left the government.
Do you have any sense of why that was denied?
I don't know. No, I don't really have insight. It was something they mentioned to me, it was security or something denied it.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries,
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
One sort of bombshell soundbite from the hearing is Congresswoman Nancy Mace asked you about biologics. Ross Coulthart in the News Nation interview asked you about pilots coming out of these crafts. Do you want to just speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it is a mind-blowing side of it, right? It's a little easy to imagine, an artifact or whatever, but when you start talking about, the biological side of it, it really throws you for a loop psychologically. It did for me, and I talked to the people that were on that aspect of the program, if you will, and I mean, it comes with the territory. I mean, buckle up, I guess. I call them pilots because that's like our vernacular. I don't know what their actual job was.
Non-human intelligence, but they had bodies.
Yeah, I mean.
Were they alive? Were they dead?
I don't get into specifics. Okay. Yeah, I know a lot of that stuff.
Out of curiosity, why are you allowed to say that NHI pilots came out of the craft, but you can't go more?
That's all I put in the pre-publication stuff that got approved. I mean,
got it.
I could go back and ask for more, but like I said to you earlier, man, like
not your place, not your job.
And it's helpful context for the audience to realize that you literally have like these contours with which you have to operate within.
Any specific knowledge I garnered when I was on the other side of the door, if I want to talk about that publicly, everybody who has had a job like I have has to submit it to a thing called DOPSR at the Pentagon, DoD Pre-Publication and Security Review. You know, even if it's about this stuff. Like, I know it sounds insane, but like, you literally have to say, like, this is what I want to talk about.
Why do you think they approved it?
Catch-22. So they'd have to self-identify and highlight their concerns to redact. So the office who would propose a redaction, say it's a 3-letter agency or whatever, right? They'd have to be like, this office objected to you saying crash retrievals. Here we're citing the security classification guide. No. And then you can litigate that, right? To get it unredacted if you think that's an inappropriate application of security. If it got redacted like that and it cited what organization and what security reason it is, I would just publish that. And then the public can make its own interpretation why, the US government's withholding information about that kind of thing and wanted to sequester my speech. So it's a catch-22, honestly, for them, and damn if they do, damn if they don't. I just wanted to put enough out there, touch on all the most sensitive parts, like the biologics side and like things that really need to come out. But I don't want to overly disclose because it's not my job, but enough to, put the flag out there that we need to elevate this. This is serious. Some of the uncomfortable stuff, like the biologic stuff, like I mentioned during the hearing, you got to realize some baggage is coming with it besides, the Indiana Jones, warehouse thing that everybody thinks.
Why do the politicians, why do the people who are higher up feel like they need to hide the evidence, or I'm just the root cause, why is this a topic that's so...
I mean, I can only know what the mindset was, multiple decades ago, and anything in government, they're resistant to change. So this is the way we set it up. You remember trust in government was high back in the 40s post-war, and then also society was less secular. So there's, they're worried about the religious ontological shocks as well. And they never really developed we'll call it disclosure plan for what it's worth. And they just were like, this is the way it's been, and we're gonna keep it that way. And we don't want Russia and China to be exposed to any of this info. And we don't wanna give them an edge. And unfortunately, it's that kind of low energy thinking.
If you got to ask one question to ask someone who is not alive anymore, that you feel could answer a lot for you, who would you pick and what would the question be?
I would probably ask Starbucker, Oppenheimer, and be like, what was your thought process in the 40s and 50s, squirreling this away? I mean, besides overlaying the Manhattan Project secrecy.
Because Oppenheimer was the one who created the classification that included the UFO stuff?
Oh, all those guys. The guys that were involved in Manhattan were overlaying the same ecosystem of secrecy and some of the same ways to protect stuff that they were protecting our nuclear secrets. If you read the definition of special nuclear material in the Public Atomic Energy Act of 1954, it basically states any material that releases any kind of atomic energy.
That would be retrieved crash material. So it's kind of a sneaky way of...
No, it is. If you actually read the Atomic Energy Act, if something is not a nuke, but it has radiological energy coming off it, alpha, beta decay, whatever.
Same secrecy.
Same secrecy.
The Manhattan Project.
Manhattan Project, they were kind of the first blue book. They were getting UFO reports back in the day. There's some people I'm colleagues with that their grandparents were actually, the UFO report people on the Manhattan Project. And I remember being told that. I was like, really? Holy crap, that's crazy. There's a whole other side of the Manhattan Project. It's like, well, what's going on? Why would General LeMay act like that to a sitting senator?
So unless you're George H.W. Bush, Bush 41, who is director of the CIA, as the president of the United States, you probably don't even know.
Yeah, unless you've done the blood oath and you were the CIA director or something previously. Unless you have to stroke a pen to sign an executive order or something. Well, why would you ever need to know unless you literally, as the commander in chief, need to know it to make a decision? I've seen this in other conventional programs. You compartment it so much, some people don't know really what they're working on.
Yeah.
Only the people that have the top level accesses can look down on all facets of the pyramid, as we say, and that hinders progress. And then certainly with this subject, when you're trying to crack an unknown, that kind of obtuse security doesn't help either. So.
When you say unknown, is it the USB drive to a caveman analogy, where it's like the caveman doesn't know information theory, doesn't have a computer to plug the USB drive into, and we just don't even know where to start in terms of reverse engineering things?
It's like other people have given the analogies, like giving Galileo a TI-83 plus graphing calculator. They open it up and they see circuitry, and they're like, well, what is even this? I don't have a concept of a transistor.
But even that, or like a monkey with an iPhone, you kind of know how to, if you open it up, sure, you're confused, but you kind of know how to press the buttons and you realize there's this graphical interface or whatever. That seems easier than caveman with a USB drive. So like, where are we in that?
Yeah, I mean, some of it is, it's hard to gauge how far in advance it is because you're just assuming a certain linear progression. I think some of this is they made an asymptotal leap that, put them over the edge to a different kind of plane of.
That's pretty fascinating, like a different timeline almost.
If I was a betting man, some of this NHI, they're similarly as advanced as us, but they've just made, asymmetric evolution or whatever. They went a different path where we made nuclear weapons and stuff. They ended up making this like civil propulsion kind of equivalent discovery where they're able to do this now, but they're actually not that much more advanced than you and I.